Welcome back, everybody. This is 3 days in a row of doing videos. This is way more common than usual for me, but I want to share some information, build on some of the excitement of Cosworth releasing Pi Toolbox 14 and the iRacing support. And so today I'm going to focus on really for you folks that are new or just getting started with data analysis. Like, what do? You do iRacing, you've got telemetry, you've downloaded Pi Toolbox, you've gotten their free workbook. So now what? Like, how do I start finding lap time? So today, it's really what we're going to focus on is finding lap time in your own data. This is not a case where you need to get someone else who's faster's data to compare to. This is really about looking at the things that you do well and finding those instances where you did things better in a given corner in a given segment and identifying that and then putting it into practice for the next time. So we're going to start here. I've got Pi Toolbox open right now. We're just going to go ahead and do a new. We're going to go and take their sim iRacing Lite workbook, and this is done using the release that just dropped today on the afternoon of September 11th, 2025. And there we go. We've got their default iRacing Lite workbook. So the first thing I want to do, if you saw my previous kind of quick overview, is add some outings. And so we're going to right click, add outing, and then I'm just going to pick, I'm using the same bit of telemetry just because it has a few laps in it. It's got like 15 laps in it. I hit OK. And then we're going to go on over to the driver tab, our worksheet here. And you can see, here we've got your basic speed, RPM, throttle, brake, steering wheel angle, and gear number. And, that's great, but I want to be able to look for comparisons of different laps within the same session. So in this case, I could be comparing some of my own data. In this case, I'm literally just going to compare the same session. So if I right click, I can do copy, and then I have to click up here on the iRacing, right click, and do paste. And now I've got two copies. So I have the same outing in two places, which allows me to pick multiple laps and overlay them. So in this case, what I'm going to start by doing is let's just pick another lap. Let's pick a previous lap. So I'm going to click on this 157.2 lap, and here my best lap is this 156.6. I have no idea if that's even a respectable lap time. Probably the people that do this a lot are laughing at me right now. But we're going to go ahead and compare those and say, okay, is there something that I can learn from that 157 lap? And then you can do this, lap by lap going through them. And then at the end, I'm going to talk a little bit about split times and how you can use that to speed up your process a bit, if you will. So, here in this center chart, again, what you're seeing is the overlaying of the red outing is my reference lap. That's my fastest lap. You can tell over here, the reference lap always has this little roundel, like a BMW roundel, or I joke, it's almost like the crash test dummy stickers you see. And then the one you're comparing it to is the other one that doesn't have that. In this case, it's the green lap. And off to the right, this is one of my favorite tools. This is just the lap delta channel. So all we're doing is Pi Toolbox is displaying how the lap time is changing as you go through the lap. So the red line is my reference, so that's always going to be at 0. If the green lap is faster, then this green line will go down. If the green lap is slower, the green line will go up. And so what we can do right here is see, okay, where are places where I gained lap time? So there's one here, there's one here, there's actually one here. You can actually see while the line is above, because at this point it's a slower lap, it did gain lap time. And then there's another one here. So let's just pick a couple and drill in some more detail. So I'm going to kind of click in the middle here, and you can see these are all in sync. So it's over here. Kind of this is really going into turn one. I should point out this is VIR full course. Again, it's kind of one of my favorite tracks, so I tend to use that a lot. And what we're going to do is we've clicked where we see the line, dropping. And in this case, I will note it goes down and it goes right back up again. So there's something that gained time, but then it was thrown away. but it's still worth looking at. So at least you understand what happened. So with the line where I've got it, I'm going to hit the Z key and I'm going to zoom in and just really zoom in on this section of track. And so what do we see? The speed, here's the speed going down the front straight. This is, past start finish. And as you can see, right about here, the speed starts to deviate. And if you look at the accelerator trace here and the brake trace, well, you can see the main thing that happened is uh, in the fast lap, or in the slower lap, I actually stayed in the gas longer and broke later. So it's a relatively small difference in as far as how far on the track. I mean, if we zoom in some more, you can do things like look down at the distance. It's 202 meters. And then I actually lifted at 230. So it's 11 meters later. Um, and, what you can see though is it's not so much that time, right? That 11 meters didn't really gain a lot of lap time in and of itself. In fact, if you look at the lap time difference here, it's 0.002 seconds to here, it's 0.001 seconds. So it's a millisecond. But really what gained the speed was, and by the way, I'm using the mouse wheel, scrolling the mouse wheel to kind of move the display over. Really where the time is gained is in the braking zone. So an interesting thing to play with is, particularly in real life, where it's a lot more at risk than in a sim, if you actually try lifting a little earlier and braking a little lighter and just get your speed trace higher through the braking zone, you can actually end up picking up lap time. But I'll look at this some more. The real difference is from here to, let's say, here. Now, one of the fun things I like to do, Pi Toolbox, is the R key. The R key lets you take a section and kind of see what changed over that section. So if I click on this area right here, which is effectively where the speed started to differentiate, and then I hit R, and you don't see anything, but then if you go click right here where they come back together, I now have this section, okay? And I can look over to the right and see, oh, that's 4/10 of a second. So that's the amount of time gained in the braking zone in that one section. So I find that helpful to understand, okay, is this really something important to key in on? Another thing I think it's helpful to understand, because I didn't realize this for years, to be honest. Um, Lap time is basically um, you get it through two ways. You either get it by more speed or you get it by less distance. Generally, it's through more speed. And percentage-wise, picking up more speed in a slower section gets a lot more lap time than picking up the same number of miles an hour in a fast section. So 2 miles an hour at 150 miles an hour is worth far less lap time than 2 miles an hour at 50 miles an hour. So even looking at this section, if we just divide it in half and say, okay, the first half of this brake zone is less than a tenth of lap time gained. Now, if I do the same exercise in the last half, it's 4/10. So I probably just jiggered it a little bit on the where I started and stopped. Yes, the numbers go up. There's definitely a bigger gap here than here, but even looking at this last little bit, again, still almost 4/10. So something to keep in mind looking for lap time is to focus in on those slower sections, those slower corners, whether it's the end of brake zones, whether it's giving a little more gas coming out of corners so you can very quickly build some speed. There's a lot more lap time to gain there than worrying about, was I 2 miles an hour faster at the end of the straight. It's that matters over the course of it, but if I can gain time in the beginning, that's more valuable. So just a little bit of a kind of, I don't know, tangent a bit about lap time and slow speed versus high speed corners. As you can see, gained a lot of time there, but then immediately threw it all away. So what happened here? Let's take a look. So you can see just this is the steering trace down here. So you can definitely see where I turned in and how I turned in is very different. And you can also see that in the slower lap, but my reference lap, I had a higher minimum speed. So I didn't quite slow as much. I overslowed effectively going into turn one for this green lap, and that's a big part of where I gave away the speed was actually just overslowing. Let's look at the lines. It's one of the great things about having GPS data. You no longer have to kind of infer this from steering angles. We can just, click this, blow it up, use the scroll wheel, zoom in. All right, well, what do we see? Well, you can see while I came in faster and I was definitely going faster, I'm way far of apex. So effectively, I had more speed, but I couldn't make the corner. So this wasn't exactly a big win. Um, you know, Perhaps I could practice carrying more speed and still hitting my apex. I'm getting the car where it needs to be. But in this case, the reason why I gave it all up is because I effectively didn't execute the corner correctly. So now we're going to zoom back out again and look at another section. So let's look at this section that begins right here. So same thing, I'm going to click, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and we'll start with the map. Let's take a look at where we are on track again. This is turn three. So pretty high speed, left-hander, at VIR. And so you can see right away my lines are different. So we'll look at that some more, but the faster lap, the green lap, I'm a lot closer to the apex. This isn't a corner, frankly, where typically you get all the way to the apex. It's a little more of a big sweeping motion. But here you do see that the car was more straight, or basically was straighter earlier on, which you're going to see allows it to carry more speed. So look back into the data. Sure enough, what do you see is from here to here, again, throttle is later, a little bit more braking because there was more speed. But again, there was more speed carried through that entry part of the corner, gave a little bit of it back up, kind of mid corner, and then picked up the throttle a bit earlier and made up some time going out. So pretty good sequence. That again was good for, let's kind of go from here to here. Almost 3/10. So something to work on. Work on, in this case, I'm thinking, work on getting the car straighter, heading through two into three, trying to roll more speed through three, and then again, pick up the throttle a little earlier, coming out of three and heading to four. And then let's take a look at one more section, and then I'm going to pivot to another thing. So let's go to, I don't know, let's see what happened here. This looks interesting. And here, at this point, my green lap is 1.5 tenths slower, but I did pick up some. So how did I do that? Click, V key, drill in. What happened? Wow, this is interesting. First, where are we on track? Let me orient myself. So this is coming out of turn 10, heading down the hill to 11, and then you go around the corner to Oak Tree. Lines look pretty similar, by the way. Like, it's not a huge difference there. So what happened? Well, maybe zoom out a teeny bit. Kind of hard to get sort of an understanding here. So from here to here, probably not a huge difference in time. But you see, the main thing is I just picked up the throttle a little earlier, but I also didn't commit to the throttle like I did in the other laps. So it's kind of a mixed bag. Picked up a little bit, maybe gave a little bit back, gained a little more by staying on the gas longer. Yeah, pretty slight difference. I don't know that I really focus on much over there. So this just gives you an idea of how I approach this. And here I'm just looking at one lap comparing to a previous lap. This works a lot better when you can look at all your laps kind of more holistically to figure out where to focus your attention. So the next thing I'm going to show you is not actually in the Cosworth workbook, but you can easily add it yourself. It'll be in the workbook that I'll be sharing out here, I promise soon. Um, but let's go create our own display. So easiest way to do that is we'll just click on this welcome worksheet that they have that just has an image. Hopefully at this point you've learned, okay, I know how to get started. And I'm going to go ahead and just close that image. And what I'm going to add is a split display. So display, split report. All right. And so right now you see effectively just lap times and laps. What you want to do is we're going to use Alt 2 to bring up the list of channels. And then we're going to go click where it says filter and type EL. And we're going to add a lap time. All right, so now you're seeing segment times for each sector. Now, by default, um, Toolbox is going to create some sectors for you. I didn't create a map or anything for these sectors. This was kind of auto-generated by the system. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to load a map that I created. So what you see here are a couple of, actually, this is a bug that I'm told is going to be fixed very soon, where since this was generated from GPS data, sometimes the start finish line doesn't quite get picked up right for split times. And so that's why you see kind of missing sector times the beginning and end of the lap. So supposedly that's going to get fixed. But um, I have already been in kind of the habit of creating my own maps where I can go in and create sectors based on my understanding of the track. And so there's a whole separate video I did on this several years ago. I'll probably do another one as a refresh. But we're going to cheat a little bit here. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to load a new map. So we'll do Alt 1 and then right click. All right, I don't want to right click because I don't want to create a map. This is how you create your own map, by the way. Actually, let me show you this real quick and then I'll load mine. If you're going to create your own map right now, right click, create map. You want to do standard map. And then if you get this error, this means the workbook doesn't have a channel mapped to lateral acceleration. So I'm going to show you how to fix that real quick too. There's a little bit of again, a rabbit hole, but tools, options, channels, lateral acceleration, use the real channel. In this particular, in iRacing data, it is accel lateral. If I do that and apply it, and I'll do the exact same thing, you can see that it'll generate for me a map. I'm not going to use that. I'm just showing kind of the real quick and dirty how to create one. You can then go and create segments and corner definitions, but we're going to cancel that. I'm going to go ahead and just load. And by the way, if you happen to be doing VIR or one of the laps that I've created maps for, I've actually shared these map files up on hypodriver.com. You can go out there, download them, use them. I'll try to post more as I get around to creating them. But map load, and then in this case, we're going to go down to VIR full, and it's these PXT files you're after. There's two types of map files, kind of again, another rabbit hole, but you want the PXT files. And now what you see is I've got 8 sectors. Okay, so this gives me a lot more to work with. And so I'm going to do a couple things first to make this more readable for me. The first thing I'm going to do is and this also helps you understand just how to customize the tool. I'm going to do right click, properties. I'm going to turn off my out lap and my in lap. I'm going to go to appearance, and I am going to change the font to something I can read, like 11 point. And I'll do the same for the header. And then I'm also going to change the minimum color to something that's really obvious, like this bright green. And I don't really care about the maximum, so I'm just going to set that to gray. So now, what do we have? The exact same lap we've been talking about, exact same session rather. But now I can see, okay, first of all, I have a theoretical lap now. So my theoretical lap is a solid second faster than my fastest lap. Now that's not always all achievable. We saw how the sector 1 kind of gain was probably not realistic given what it did to sector 2. But now I can go through and say, okay, my fastest lap was 15, Sector 5, Sector 7, Sector 8 were already the fastest. But, oh, well, Sector 1 on lap 9 was 2.5 tenths faster. So now I can compare just that sector in just that lap and say, what did I do differently? Similarly here, the previous sector, there's, a tenth and a half. Here, there's a tenth and a half. So that gives me a way to focus in on which laps to look at, which sections of which laps to look at, and just follow the same technique we just did and look, okay, what was your speed, what was your throttle application, your brake application, your line, and use that to kind of guide, what did I do differently that made that faster? And so, again, for me, there's probably a solid second in here that could be gained, and that's, with my existing, relatively poor driving. So hope you found this helpful. And please feel free to post questions, post suggestions in the iRacing Cosworth forum. If you want to post up ideas for content you'd like to see, happy to generate it. I just need to know what folks would find helpful. Thanks and have a great day.